Hey, welcome back to the lockdown sessions with Wrestling Travel. Wrestling Travel lockdown sessions today is brought to you by Tru Heel Heat podcast. Please go check them out on YouTube, on all your favorite podcasting download. We're going to have a graphic down here if it's not down there now, but today we have a very special guest, Jordan Oliver. Jordan, how are you doing today?
Yo, I'm all right. I just woke up from a nap, but other than that,
Awesome.
I'm good.
You know what I like having in lockdown sessions is I like having a guy who's well rested before he gets on here. So, Jordan, as you know, we're doing this lockdown session just to kind of help find out what people have been up to during this pandemic. But before I get to that, I want to start at the beginning. How long have you been in the business, Jordan?
I've only been professionally wrestling for like 4 years now, so I'm still pretty new to the business. I actually get announced as like very new to the business. So,
Okay. Where did you break in? Who trained you?
So originally I broke in untrained. So for like the first 3 or 4 months of my professional career, I was not trained wrestler, and I wrestled just like my third match was against Coco Beware.
Okay.
And then it was like a tag match or whatever. And after that match, Coco's partner was like, "Oh, like, wow, I see a lot of potential in you or whatever. Like, you want to come train with me?" His name was Jersey Kid. So then I moved in with him, and he started taking me to schools like CZW and a lot of places like that. I lived with him for like maybe like 6 months when I was 15 or 16. And then pretty much most of my like training goes to CZWs, but like I don't credit like a single person because there's such a large amount of people that have like helped me get to where I'm at and trained me in different sort of ways.
So how old are you when you're in the ring with Coco Beware in your third match?
Only like 16.
So are you 16, not trained? Are you shitting yourself, or are you so young and whatever, like just, hey, bring it?
No, I was well, I didn't even like think about not being like trained. Like I just didn't even cross my mind, like but I was super nervous just for the match in general, because obviously Coco Beware is like he was the first like name I've ever wrestled, and got to the show that day. So
Right. That's an interesting story, man. We've got a
yeah.
little bit of unstable internet. There we go. We're back on. Okay, wow. So yeah, and I honestly believe wrestling is an ongoing learning thing. So you're always
I
learning,
agree.
whether your first match or your last match, and what's awesome is the brotherhood and sisterhood of the locker room where you're learning
Yeah.
all that stuff. So who else have you everybody loves to hear like the names that people have jumped in the ring with.
Shit. There's a long list, I guess.
Cool.
Like I've wrestled like like people like Snitsky, like the Patriot, Sean Maluda, Rich Swan, like pretty much like all the like indie guys right now. I've pretty much like wrestled. Joey Janela. It's like I need to start writing it down, I guess, at this point.
Right. And you always are gonna forget somebody. So so you're in the ring at 16. When you're a young Jordan Oliver, what age were you when you first kind of got hooked on pro wrestling and started watching it?
Fuck, like 5 probably.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'm so young still. I'm only 21 right now. So some of the guys that are like wrestling right now in the indies and whatnot that I'll like end up encountering or whatever are people that I actually like kind of grew up watching. So it's pretty interesting to me to be around a lot of those people.
What when you're 5 or whatever it is when you first start, who's the one wrestler that sticks out? Like who caught your eye? Who was the guy you were watching when you were very young?
Gotta be John Cena.
Yeah.
Gotta be John Cena for me. Like the first match I saw was like him versus Booker T on SmackDown, like just some random SmackDown. And I just like my mom was watching it, and my dad left the store for like to get cigarettes or something, and like I just crawled out of my room like oh, what the fuck's this? And then I like fell in love. So
A lot of people like to give Cena a lot of heat, but great dude. Got an opportunity to meet him probably 8 years ago in Manhattan at a sports conference.
wow.
But I love what he does for the business, and
Yeah, I
he's
mean he's
so
a
good.
great person to look up to for a lot of people. I feel like he doesn't have there's no like ever been no bad dirt on John Cena really. So
Yeah, the fact that when people say, "Oh, he doesn't put anybody over," are you shitting me? You know, he puts everybody over. He just
yeah,
maybe not on the particular day that people are watching. So,
stepping in the ring, getting you over. So
yeah, dude is outstanding. So these people that when you start to encounter people that you see on TV, um, like I've experienced a little bit, and I never thought I would when I started doing these lockdown sessions. Like I had Nikita Koloff on like 2 weeks ago, and on the outside I'm like trying to be calm, cool, and collected, but on the inside I'm like, holy shit, man! I'm talking to Nikita Koloff, and hopefully I come out pretty professional. But do you have that nerves? Are you in the? The only reason I say this is because don't take it the wrong way. Because you're young, sometimes I remember when I was young and I was like, yeah, dude, I'll do that spot. I'll do that. I don't care. Like this whole like my
yeah.
brain was bigger than everything else. Do you get that, or are you like, hey man, this is just normal. These are my peers. Here we go.
So definitely like first like I was like, oh, like this is spooky or this is scary, whatever. I'm meeting a lot of these people that I looked up to, but then like I started I feel like I started getting a lot of traction, started getting a lot of good opportunities and starting to like travel like all over the world and whatnot. And the first like one of the first guys that I like looked up to so much when I was a kid that made me like want to be a pro wrestler, like just like Shane Strickland. And I got to meet Shane Strickland pretty early on, and I actually got to wrestle him pretty early on too, like 2 years in, I think. And he like just really gave me a lot of confidence and helped me out a lot. And then after that, I met Rich Swann, straight off WWE, who took me under his wing and like helped me understand a lot of the stuff about the business that I didn't really even get yet. So now I don't really get like nervous to like meet people, I guess, but I still like in my head I'm like, oh, this is so fucking cool. Like I'm doing these things that I used to like see, or wrestling these people I used to watch, or just talking to them or whatever. So I try to just like be cool about it, chill about it, not really like think about it too much until after it's over, so I don't get nervous.
Right. And then afterwards, you're like, man, that was cool. Yeah. I remember the same thing. One of my first ones that I met was King Kong Bundy.
Nice.
By you, but that was one of the. And I actually went up and I'm like, dude, I got to get a picture.
Yeah, that's what I did with Shane. Met him.
I said, Mr. Bundy, can I get a picture? And he goes, please call me Chris. And I'm like, I cannot do that at all.
That's so crazy.
So, I want to. Go ahead.
I had a real. I don't have a real job now, but I had a real job like 4 years ago or whatever at this place called Pet Value, and I never met him, but one of the other people that worked there told me like King Kong Bundy would come in and like get cat food and stuff. So it's super funny.
Yeah, dude, he was such a nice dude.
Yeah, they always say he was nice.
People find out, that there are a lot of. Originally, when I started this lockdown sessions, we were supposed to host and support the WrestleMania pub crawl in Tampa with all the money going to Connor's Cure. We ended up doing a virtual pub crawl and raised $3,300 plus for the Red Cross. And then I started doing this as like, hey, let's start to meet people and get them boosted. And I always say, when we raise $3,300 for the Red Cross, you might think that's not a whole lot, but we didn't know, we still don't know where our next dollar is coming from in this pandemic. That's a lot of money. I always say your normal person, average every day in the street, might look down on our business and the wrestlers in it, but there is nobody, fans included, that does more, that cares about their community and does a lot of stuff than the pro wrestling world.
I totally agree.
Now, I first took notice here. You know where this question's going to go, probably. So, GCW, Blake Christian.
Yeah.
So, you guys had quite a little run there in one match that kind of went, well, viral. Viral is the right word. Is that what the
Yeah,
kids say?
definitely.
So, you guys had a sequence there. Talk to me about that. I think you got a lot of praise, but you got a little bit of heat with that too, didn't you? From the
I
smart.
got I got a lot of both. Honestly, it's weird. I didn't really see Blake getting much of the backlash or anything from it. It felt like people were like, "This must have been your idea," like or something. I don't know why like people went straight to me, but I did get a lot of heat for it and like a lot of shit. But like to be honest, I don't really care. Like I'm not in the business of like trying to please old heads that anymore. Like I know like that clip alone got me a lot of opportunities. It got me my first booking in the UK. It got me a ton of other WrestleMania opportunities. It got me WrestleMania weekend bookings, like 6 of them. Like it gave me a ton of more positives than negatives. I got a lot of great people that contacted me to just give me advice. So I really say for that, the positives outweigh the negatives. I didn't even really like care too much about what any of the negatives were. It's funny that people like Fit Finley like said something about it, or like Jim Cornette and stuff like that. It's cool actually. So whatever.
So, let me ask you this, because you kind of talk about kind of the old school way. How are you on? I'm curious to get your opinion. You're 21 years old.
Yes.
The cinematic matches that are kind of happening in AEW and WWE. Now, I'll give you my opinion. I did not want to like them as a but I thought, hey, I'm going to give them a chance because at least we have our sport right now. There's no NBA, there's no MLB.
Mm-hmm.
What else are they going to do to try to keep it up and keep it fresh? So open-mindedly, I went into there, but now they're kind of doing a lot. I'm curious how a young guy feels.
Man, my favorite kind of professional wrestling is like like early, like I guess not early, but like I like a lot of the '90s Japanese wrestling. I love early Ring of Honor, like 2005 Ring of Honor. Davey Richards, like one of my favorite wrestlers ever. So like when the like I don't know, whenever it happened, like the Matt Hardy match that happened a few years ago, the Ultimate Deletion or whatever. Like I'm pretty sure I was still just a fan when that happened, and I really wasn't like I really didn't think it was that sick or anything. Like it was whatever. It's kind of corny, I thought. But like everybody liked it, so cool for them. But then the Undertaker and AJ Styles one, I think was like the first cinematic match that I was like, this is really sick. Like they killed this one. But I didn't like the John Cena and Bray Wyatt one because it wasn't really a match compared to the other stuff. Like I think the Undertaker and AJ one I can kind of forgive because, well, if it's the Undertaker, he hasn't like been having bangers, because he's beat up and whatever. So is him and AJ Styles going to be a better in-ring match than it would have been a cinematic match? I don't know. Obviously AJ is one of the best ever, so Undertaker is one of the best ever. I'm sure they could have a banger, but maybe it was best for them to have a cinematic one, and it was a pretty good one, I thought. So usually I'm not too into the cinematic matches. I can definitely say, like, I just think that sometimes they could be a little bit corny.
Good. I'm actually very refreshed to kind of hear that because that's where I was going to. Like the Undertaker was kind of described to me as like almost like a final battle in a movie, like that final scene, super cool.
Yeah.
And then the Firefly Funhouse. I tried to watch that, and I'm going. But I'm like you, man. Cena's my boy, so I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. But
It was
weird.
more of a segment than a match. I felt like that was like a vignette.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't really
absolutely. And then people were going crazy on the internet. Oh, this meant this. They covered this. So I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. But then I get to something like the greatest match ever, where I know they filmed some parts of it, and I'm going. To me, one of the greatest matches ever. Let's say Flair and Steamboat, 1980.
Sure, yeah.
Now, if you're running that match and all of a sudden you got to, all right, cut, you over here, we'll get some water, and then we'll start in a headlock. To me, I got an issue with that. And I know that Edge has come out and said that we didn't on stop and start. But what were your
Wow.
thoughts?
Yes. I thought that match was actually pretty sick. I thought it was like a pretty like pure wrestling match. I didn't know they had like I saw tweets like that there was like piped in crowd sounds and like a lot of shit like that, but I kind of didn't even like notice it watching it like live. I was just like, oh, they're having a banger right now. These guys are like having like a legit main event. You don't get to see a lot of like legit main events in the WWE anymore.
Right. I was the same way. I just thought everything was cinematic. But then, like I said, after talking, not talking, but hearing from Edge that they did a few cuts, but otherwise they went solid 45. I'm like, all right, I'm cool with it. Because I couldn't tell, like you, if there were cuts or not. But I'm like, man, if
Yeah.
they cut and went action, I'm like, I'm going to hate this. So I'm going to be very respectful of your time just for everybody to know. Jordan agreed to do the interview, but he's got places to go and people to see. Who you're young. Do you have a couple bucket list wrestlers that you haven't caught into the ring yet that you're like, hey man, before it's all said and done, I would love to do a match with X, Y, and Z.
Oh, absolutely. If I can if it could be anybody that's like currently wrestling, then I totally have like a list. It would be like my favorite wrestler right now is Will Ospreay. I just think Will Ospreay is like such a level of head of like where everybody's thinking right now. I would love to wrestle AJ Styles, Randy Orton, like Kenny Omega, and I would really love to wrestle like Okada.
Yeah.
Those are like probably top 5. Like if I could if just off the top of my head, if I can get those matches like right now or like in the next few years, I would love to get those.
That's an impressive list. Last couple questions here. Wrestling Travel, as you know, we're out of the United Kingdom. What we do is we bring fans to their favorite wrestling events, whether it be WrestleMania. Wrestle Kingdom was the last one we were able to go to before the pandemic. What are some of your favorite cities or places that this crazy world of pro wrestling has taken you? I know you said you wrestled for TNT over in the UK, but you got a couple places that you're like, wow, this is a crazy city.
Yeah. First, obviously, I gotta put up Philadelphia. I wrestled in the 2300 a few times now, like ECW Arena, and there's just nothing like wrestling in Philadelphia in front of those fans. Like you always hear people talk about it, like, but it really is just like they really are just like some crazy ass fans. They're malicious and violent and all that. So they're awesome. I love wrestling in New York. I got to wrestle in the Melrose ballroom for MLW. That venue's super sweet. And then I really love wrestling in Chicago. Chicago is super awesome. I wrestled for AAW out there, and that's super sick. I want to say like I wrestled in Tijuana, right? Literally like the day everything got like shut down. Like it was my last like show in front of fans before everything got cut down, and that crowd was pretty nuts. But I don't want to say they're like one of my favorites because I've only done it once so far. But I could definitely see me loving wrestling in front of like that rabid crowd also.
You just reminded me of somebody who we work a lot with, Alicia Toot, I know was down there. And I was kind of following you guys going, man, because it was crazy back then. I'm like, are they going to get stuck in Tijuana?
Yeah, we were
Gonna...
definitely thought we were gonna get stuck in Tijuana.
I was all worried about it. So last question. Well, I got 2 more questions. The last one's my most important. What did you do during this time of coronavirus to keep your head in the game, to keep on wrestling? What were some of the things that you were doing just to stay on top of everything?
So before like we got put in the lockdown or whatever, I weighed 180. Right now, as of my first match back, I weigh 220. So I just been like working out, really just like trying to put on a lot of size, and I started studying like a ton more of wrestling because like I'm sure as you know, like after you start wrestling a lot, then it's just like kind of it's not hard to watch wrestling because I still love wrestling, but to sit back and like study it the way I would study it when I was like first starting off, like I really got back into studying footage like all because of the Shawn Michaels versus Steve Austin at Mania. Watched that match, and I was like, I got to get that good. I got to get like Shawn. So I started working out really hard and watching a lot more wrestling. That's pretty much all I've been doing during this, is working out and watching wrestling.
I know there's a lot of people out there watching that put on 40 pounds during the lockdown, but they probably did it a different way. So, yeah, the one thing about studying tape, I always say, look at some of the moves that I don't see very much anymore. Your Russian leg sweep, your abdominal stretch, your atomic drop. So it's kind of cool. I'm waiting for somebody to start bringing some of the old stuff back. In fact, I know some people have, because what's old becomes new again.
Yeah, it's always like that.
Cool. Last question is my most important question, and I realize that we're rushed, and I should really keep my interviews to this length, because then people would probably watch them more, but otherwise I go into someone. The most important question, what can the fans do right now that are watching this? What are your socials? How can they follow you? How can they buy some Jordan Oliver merch? Give us your plugs.
So all of my social medias are the Jordan Oliver. We just hit 10K on Twitter yesterday, so try to move it up. Try to keep pushing. 10K is a big number. I want to be even bigger than that. So all my socials are that, and I sell merch on Pro Wrestling Tees. But also, if you just shoot me a DM, I sell a lot of merchandise through myself. I print a lot of my own shirts, all my 8x10 stickers. I'm very personable. I want to be hands-on with the fans, because I feel like, especially during this time, there is no such thing as a merch table. You can't walk up to me and we can't have a conversation. But at least if you can text me a little bit or something, we still got to have that interaction. I think it's really important to me. So that's all my plugs.
No, man, that's very good to hear. I love when people appreciate the people that got them here, especially in this day and age. I know what you're saying about, hey, watching tape to study, and sometimes you get a little bit, but watching wrestling without fans,
weird,
rough for me. So probably with everybody. So it's good to hear the interaction with the fans. So Jordan Oliver, I want to be very respectful of your time. I know you got to get going, but I want to thank you for joining us here on the lockdown sessions, and maybe we can do it again down the line someday. But I appreciate you being with us today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. God bless.